Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming back to yet another episode of The Gloving Paradigm. I am your host, Peter, aka LPD8 Dubuque, and this week is going to be a very unconventional week because there's been this situation that has happened to me that I literally just can't get my mind off of, and I feel like this would be something actually really nice to share because it's just kind of crazy. So let me just explain pretty simply. So this week I'm going to be covering the topic of inspiration. And the main reason why I'm covering this topic is because what has actually happened over this past week that has really actually affected me in such a monumental way that I didn't expect it to happen. And it's not anything bad, just putting that out there. If you guys actually remember the post that I posted on Wednesday, if I remember correctly, you kind of have an idea of what I'm going with. So to start things off about this topic is what brought me to this point. And it's quite interesting, really. So for the past almost year, maybe year and a half, I don't know exactly when we actually started this whole thing, but my friend Justin, who's an extremely long time old best friend, like I swear to God, you guys, there's nothing on this planet or outside of this planet that will ever separate us as friends. You know, because we've been through so much together that there's no way I'm going to let a friendship like that after so much of the stuff we've been through together to end type deal. So he wanted to start this game project where he actually wants to make a video game. And, you know, we got a couple of other friends who got on board. I was kind of like one of the later people that got on board before anything. So my friends kind of wrote some backstories for certain characters that they wanted. And it's kind of like their own POV character type deal. And no, this isn't going to be like Dungeons and Dragons. It's actually going to be a video game that he wants to do. And when it came to me having to make a backstory and history of my character, I wrote one out. You know, it took me a little while, but I got one written out, and I really liked what I wrote. So I shared it with everybody, and what I come to find out is that my material, the stuff that I wrote, was literally twice as long as everybody else's. And it's because I tend to get a little carried away when it comes to details, maybe. You know, it all depends on how you want to look at it. But once my friends actually saw what I posted, they all decided, like, unanimously in that moment that I was going to write the story for this game. And I'm like, okay, sure. You know, I like writing stories. I like reading stories. I feel like I could probably make a good story. So I go ahead and start writing the story. Okay. And this has taken me months to do. And it's just because I have to find, you know, whenever I have spare time and I'm in the mood, I'll go ahead and start writing. So fast forward to probably like a week ago, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly when I posted it, but I go ahead and I post the prologue and the first chapter. And the main reason why there is a prologue and why there is a lore dump in the front of the prologue is because when I first started writing the story, I didn't know where to begin. So I decided to pull the old Bible Genesis. In the very, very beginning, there was dark and then there was light type deal. I tend to do that just so I can actually just see what comes out and see what world is created through spontaneity. So I go ahead and I finish this thing up. I put in a lot of time and effort making sure that I had things written out, made sure that it flowed very well, made sure that the grammars weren't horrendously bad or any of the spelling was horrendously bad. And I go ahead and post it. The next day I get comments from all my friends, personal messages. I don't know why they did it in personal messages, but they all wanted to personally message me to discuss with me about what I wrote. And the reactions I was getting from my friends was something I wasn't really expecting at all. And as much as some people might think that would be a negative type reaction, no, this was all very, very positive. But I didn't realize how much of an impact that my writing would have on my friends when I wasn't trying to go for that. I was literally just trying to write a good story, just one that worked, you know, not anything that was groundbreaking or anything like that. But my friends all told me that it was extremely moving for them in the very first chapter, which is kind of insane to think that it's only the first chapter and we haven't really gone into the whole plot of everything. But, you know, I had a lot of my friends tell me that they felt things that they haven't felt in a long time, especially when it came from a story, that I was really taken aback because I didn't really think that my writing capabilities would actually have that kind of effect on people, first of all. And second of all, I was actually expecting them to be like, oh, I don't really like how you wrote my character. This is how I kind of want him to go or her to go, But everybody literally was telling me that they absolutely loved everything I did, and that it inspired them and motivated them to actually push themselves even further to not only work harder on the project like I have been, even though I really haven't been working really hard on the project, I'm just doing it casually, but it motivated them to actually pursue going into this project even more committedly. And not only that, it inspired them to do a lot of things outside of the project that, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details, but, we all have a past, we all have our own set of problems. But for my work that I've just been doing casually to inspire people to actually better themselves, regardless of their personal issues, to actually tackle those personal issues and overcome them, that was extremely humbling for me, okay? And it's just because that's not what I was trying to do. I wasn't really expecting much from my story. I just kind of wanted to make sure I was writing a well-written story, and just them just telling me that stuff really inspired me to actually talk about it. And it's one of those things that it's just been on my mind for a few days, guys. Like, I can't really get it out of my head because that's how much of an impact their feedback was to me. So, I will certainly tell you that it's been one of the most humbling experiences, except for when you guys actually give me some feedback and actually communicate with me and actually mingle with me. This was probably one of the most humbling experiences for me, because I don't want to let things like that get to my head, because I've seen what happened when people let that kind of stuff get to their head, that it will cause, problems down the road, and that's not what I want. But what that done to me is really inspired me to really actually commit myself more to the things I've been working on. For example, like this podcast, I really, really want to commit more to doing this, and actually really, really want to put more time into doing this rather than everything else I've been doing in terms of just having to work to fund it, So, getting back to the whole thing after my lovely little regaling story of how I inspired my friends on just writing a simple story, and it's inspired them to a degree just by reading the first chapter, you guys. Like, seriously, I only wrote one chapter so far, and this is how much of an impact it has had on my friends in terms of them actually enjoying the story. So, why I want to talk about this is the main reason about inspiration is that it can literally come from anywhere. And the one thing I definitely want to stress is that your inspiration is most likely going to come from a place you have never expected to come from. I never expected to have such an inspiration from my friends having a reaction to this casual little hobby thing of me writing a story had on them. So it's, to me, inspiration is just one of the things that can come from anywhere. It can literally drive your art even further, whether it be gloving, painting, writing, whatever the case may be when it comes to art, and of course it helps with the expansion of the art as well, because then you bring out new concepts which will inspire people to try out different concepts and create different concepts and so on and so forth. This is one of those things that I will certainly tell you when it comes to gloving, especially for me, the thing that I find to be the apotheosis of gloving is the mantra of you inspire people to become inspired. And the main reason why I love about that is that I feel like that's what gloving really does on a fundamental level, is that it inspires people to become inspired. You show somebody a move, they learn that move, and then they tweak it in a certain way to kind of create their own move, which will inspire you to learn that move and create another one. We feed off of each other type deal and communicate with each other to create this art form that is in its own. Like, yes, we can break it down and say, oh, well, there's popping and locking, and there's tutting, and there's hip-hop elements into it. Yes, we can do that. However, we're not taking literally an entire art form and slapping it into another one and calling it different. No, we're actually just pulling inspirational parts from different places to create our own. And that's to me is what gloving is. It's the mantra of you inspire people to become inspired. So places that I tend to want to tell people where to look for when it comes to finding inspiration is, besides just your friends and family and people close to you, where they can give you that motivation to really push yourself. There's two main categories when it comes to finding inspiration when it comes to gloving. Okay. And of course, one of them is through gloving, and there's non-gloving. Those are that's pretty much where it comes when it comes to these categories. So when it comes to gloving, you got competition videos, you got regular videos that people post, and then of course you got tutorials. And I'll kind of have an asterisk next to that because I will explain why in a little bit. So when it comes to competition videos, that's when you're going to see people really try to just throw out moves that maybe they haven't really tried or practiced a whole lot on. And it's one of those things that I like about competitions. The competition format is that it really drives the whole improvisation of the performers to actually take risks and actually try to push themselves even further and trying to get those extra points. That to them is great, but what works for everybody else who are not in that competition is that they're providing loads of material to inspire you. They come up with concepts that you've never seen before, and you're like, oh man, I really, really want to do that. So you watch the video over and over again. You pause and play repeatedly to put it into slow-mo if it doesn't have a slow-mo feature. That's what I love about competition videos. That's why I watch competition videos, is just because people come out with these crazy ideas that you may never see again, but you saw it and you really liked it, so it inspired you to learn it. That's what I love about competition videos. That's why I tell people to watch competition videos, because that's probably where you're going to find most of your inspiration. I'm not saying that regular videos don't have that. Like, I can certainly tell you I've seen plenty of regular, just casual videos that people have posted that really inspired me to work on my craft more. So you have those two, but then you have tutorials, and this is where I find it very, very, very interesting. Okay, so when it comes to tutorials, it doesn't necessarily have to be gloving. Like, I've watched videos that these people were not glovers and they were teaching me moves that I can incorporate into gloving. But there's been a couple of tutorials that I was watching that halfway through I was getting the idea, but I decided to take parts of the tutorial and kind of like put them in different places, if that makes any sense. Let's say, for example, I'm doing king tutting, and the person is kind of like having this loop thing where it's like an 8-step loop. Well, maybe step 4 and step 8 are in the same position. So what if I kind of took those parts and flipped them? So it kind of like goes 1 2 3 4 8 7 6 5, kind of deal. And that's the idea when it comes to finding the inspiration, is that you see them teaching you something, but it sparks a different idea in your head. That's kind of the idea I wanted to get across when it comes to the tutorials. Okay, so then you have your non-gloving inspiration, which can be literally anything at this point, but here are the things that I listed down. The first thing was literature. As you guys know, I do like reading. I like reading stories. I like writing stories. I like the whole idea of what literature provides. So that's always one great place that you can always look into for inspiration. Shows and movies is a great example for one, because everyone has their favorite show. They have their favorite movies. They have these characters that they certainly love. They love the themes that are in these materials that you can incorporate into your gloving that most people might not even think about. Of course, the other thing is you have video games. I have told you guys that I have had glove sets inspired by video games to bring out that theme of the video game. Like, a great example is Ocarina of Time. I made a glove set that represented all 5 temples that you have to go and complete. I've made a glove set that reflected Metroid Prime's gun system, where I had the power beam, the ice beam, the wave beam, the plasma beam. Having that kind of stuff being an inspiration to create those glove sets. And I will certainly tell you, when I made those glove sets, my style kind of had to adapt to accentuate the theme of like Legend of Zelda or Metroid Prime, whatever the case may be. Now, there's another thing I definitely want to explain when it comes to this, and this other form of inspiration that I've seen people use is magic. And no, I'm not talking about Magic the Gathering. As much as I love playing that game and how much that game is fun, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the street performance art of magic, magic tricks. I can understand where certain people say, well, only certain gloving archetypes like impacting and conjuring can really use that to its full extent. However, I will certainly tell you, I've had people who weren't conjurers or who were not impactors that were able to incorporate the techniques from magic shows and magic tricks to actually further their development of their style in gloving. So do not dismiss magic as something that you shouldn't be trying to incorporate. If I remember correctly, PM Munch was like one of the biggest proprietors of incorporating magic tricks into gloving because it helped facilitate his style. Granted, he was doing conjuring, but you get the point where I'm coming from. And of course, where we already got our inspiration from that we can still get our inspiration from is different dance styles. Of course, like I said before, popping and locking, hip-hop, tutting, all that stuff. It was already around for a while. We just took different aspects of those styles and smashed them together to make our own. So why can't we just keep going with that, and it won't hurt? And of course, you do have nature, which if you guys haven't seen the episode of the Gloving Nucleus where it had PM Puppet on there, he talks about how he looks at animals and tries to incorporate the movement that the animals create while they're in motion to put into his shows. A classic example is, how do you replicate a jellyfish? You do the whole hand like a jellyfish. That's just a good stereotypical example that I can think of when he was talking about it. He had other examples. I do highly recommend watching that episode so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. And lastly but not least, when it comes to non-gloving inspiration, is other art. Whether it be paint or sketching or mosaic tiling or metal crafting, basket weaving, I don't know, whatever other arts that you enjoy out there could inspire you in your gloving career as a whole. It can give you a theme of color sets that you would want to use. It gives you, a theme that you can do with your flashing patterns. It can give you a whole theme of setting up an entire glove set. Like if you're one of those people like me who likes changing their lights as they're going through the show, that I like to call phasing, you take it a step further and incorporating the transitions of your lights into the next sets and stuff like that. At least I do. I don't know if everybody does, but I do that. So just wanted to put that out there. But yes, inspiration can come from anywhere, and I'll certainly say that my inspiration tends to come from people. And it's literally when people tell me of how I have impacted their lives, even if it's in the smallest of ways. Like, for example, when it came to my story, hearing from my closest, bestest friend telling me that it made him feel emotions that he hasn't felt in a long time. That was probably the biggest impact from the whole feedback that I got about my story. Okay. And I will certainly tell you that's been one of those things that really inspired me, because I like hearing that, and it's not necessarily to feed my ego, because it really doesn't. It just makes me extremely humble and to commit to pursuing and committing to doing more work like that. Instead of, boasting my accreditations type deal, I would rather take that feedback and put it into my work and let that be it, So that's pretty much all that I have to say about my episode. I know this has been a really unconventional one, but this was just something I really had to get off my chest, you guys. It's weird to say it, but it was extremely humbling and inspiring for me to hear that from my friends. And I would definitely like to extend that kind of idea, that discussion to you guys. What inspires you in your gloving? What has inspired you from other people? What glover, every time you see this glover post a video or whatnot, what pushes you? What does this person do to push you even further? Things like that. I definitely want to hear your guys' stories on that. I have various outlets you can hit me up at. Of course, I have a Facebook page, which is aptly named The Gloving Paradigm. I definitely have my own email that you guys can find me on, which is muttonchopguy@gmail.com. Of course, I'm also on Reddit. If you guys haven't seen me post anything, I'm under the username muttonchopguy, of course. And of course, I do have a Discord, which I know I've been shamefully neglecting. I definitely need to try to use that more often, even though I use Discord regularly to talk to my friends about the game project that we're working on. So I'm definitely going to try much harder. I know there's other things I have in the works that I want to get done, but holy crap, you guys, it just sometimes can get overwhelming. But those are the places you guys can hit me up at. I would definitely like to hear you guys' stories of what has inspired you. And it doesn't have to be gloving related in terms of what inspired you to do anything. I would just love to hear you guys' stories. So you have those various places to hit me up at. I definitely want to extend a huge thank you to everybody who has been talking to me and who has been liking the page recently. I'm currently at the point of this recording, I think I'm at 133. Definitely would like to get more likes on there, because I would like to get to the 200 mark so I can have another Ask Me Anything Q&A type deal. I will certainly say that I do have plans in the works to try to get another light product in here so I can do another review for you guys. I know I've been kind of neglecting that, but I'm definitely going to be working on that. I would, would certainly say that it's been kind of trying these past couple of weeks, but do not be afraid. What the next light product will be, I will definitely let you guys know soon enough. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to go with. So the other thing I definitely want to let you guys know about is when I actually do buy this next product, I am actually going to try to do some live streams where I'm actually testing the product and talking to you guys and tinkering with it and communicating with you guys about like what ideas I should try when I'm testing these things out, or some of the things that you liked about the features on the certain products, whatever the product I'm actually testing out. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really hope that this episode has inspired you in some way, like how my story has inspired my friends to do things. To the people that might be asking if I'm going to try to get this public or published, no, that's not that's not my intention, was try to get the story published. However, if I get enough people asking about wanting to read it, I will possibly post it so you guys can read it. I would probably try to post it when I'm like 5 chapters in, maybe, so you guys have enough material to read. I don't know. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all for my episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. You guys, I highly appreciate it. Highly appreciate you guys liking the content I am creating. So I definitely want to hear back from you guys on what I can do better. But that's pretty much all I have for you guys this week. I am your host, Peter, aka LPD at the Buke, and I'll see you guys all next week.